Hello. Welcome to Climate Action Live. My name is Axel Segebrecht. I'm your host for tonight, and we're missing our co-host. I was about to say, welcome Jill, my wonderful co-host and eco-influencer, mum of twins, and she's just dropped off, so hopefully she will join us in a moment. I'm very happy to introduce tonight's topic as thrifting and second-hand clothing and fast fashion. They're all kind of sustainable fashion and clothing related topics. As you can see, I am very much into my clothing and fashion with my very old threads. Well, I managed to find a yellow shirt because we are obviously still remembering what's happening elsewhere in the world. So that's what I'm doing with my sense of fashion. Jill's joined, but we're missing her picture, which is a shame.
I don't know what video input. Okay.
You have tried turning it off and on again.
Ah!
It's the big reveal. It's the big reveal. Okay. Well, let me introduce you to Jill, my wonderful co-host. Let me see if I can switch over to the right captions because I've prepared some captions. I'm trying to make it a bit more interactive. gemjilljill.com. Thank you. Let me introduce you.
In my second-hand ensemble.
Well done.
Excellent. To my shame, I've managed to find the only yellow item I've got, apart from a really bad and old worn kind of jumper. But this is new, but it's made from apparently at least 50% recycled stuff. So I'm not feeling too bad.
It's all about conscious consumerism, people. So
it is. Shall we introduce our first guest?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me switch over. This is all manual. This is a team of one here. Let me find the right overlay. Stephanie O'Day, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. You're from a really cool place. I've checked out your website. Swapsies, is that right? Is that how you pronounce it?
That is, yes. Swapsies. It stands for swap clothes. It's just play on the words. I don't know whether you remember as kids, we used to do swapsies with each other. Parents didn't agree to a lot of the swapsies that I brought back home, but yeah, that's pretty much where the name comes from.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
No
Let
problem.
me introduce our second guest for tonight with the right overlay there, Alan Levy. You're a photographer. Tell us a bit more. What's your not angle? That's the wrong thing to say. Although you're a photographer, so you work with angles as well. But anyway, introduce yourself, mate, before I ruin it.
Hello, my name is Alan Levy, and I developed a methodology for photographing pre-loved clothing that improved how it looked on the screen, which improved the amount that was being sold, and it brought. We believe it brought it just that bit more to the public's eye, where they're not looking at us as secondhand, and it was much more seen as pre-loved, because I think that's one thing. If I'm talking too much, please shoot me down and stop me. I won't take it too personally, but I think that's where I came from. I came from this whole idea that if you present it as something which is appealing and something which is desirable, suddenly it stops being secondhand, and suddenly it becomes this new whole vista called pre-loved, where people look at it and they don't feel they're being cheap to people by using it. I came into this originally because I just object to paying £50 for a pair of jeans. And I just, when I looked at these sites, you realise that so many of these clothes just haven't been worn. I mean, I've worked the lines at some of the very big pre-loved clothing companies, and what goes through there is not pre-loved. Pre-loved suggests that somebody's worn it and it's got holes in it and it's just not nice anymore. But this stuff is people that have bought a pair of 32-inch waist jeans because I'm going to lose those last 2 inches on my diet.
I feel you. I mean, I'm still trying to to lose weight, but that's kind of what brought on this topic, because I was shopping with my 10-year-old daughter the other day, and for World Book Day, and she wanted to go as what I can best describe as an emo related outfit, although allegedly it was supposed to be like Loki, and that's looking around me. It was all this fashion, and especially if you go to places like Primark and whatnot. Don't want to call anybody out, but they're all trying to jump on this greener bandwagon where you now see stuff like made from recycled fibers or 50%, made with whatever. What's your experiences, Stephanie? You're taking quite a novel approach to this whole second hand thing. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I think I've got to agree with what Alan was saying there about how it's presented to ensure that it doesn't give off that impression of pre-loved. Unfortunately, we see things with our eyes before we touch them, before we wear them. It's just like eating food. If something looks delicious, you're going to assume it's delicious before you've even tasted it. So making pre-loved, like Alan said, look actually pre-loved rather than secondhand. The connotation of the word secondhand, just for some reason, comes across as negative. So like you said, that the fast fashion brands have cottoned on to that fact that people are a little bit more aware of the fact that the textile industry is a huge detriment to our environment. And it's not, this sort of throwaway fast fashion that we have at the moment. Everybody thinks if you take it to the charity shop, you're fine. It will go somewhere and someone else would use it. And I discovered as a mum of two, I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, that when you are shopping for secondhand clothing, it's impossible because you've got a buggy. A lot of the secondhand shops are quite small. They're crammed with a whole load of clothes. You can't get in and about. And if you have an 8-year-old daughter like mine who has a specific unicorn T-shirt that she wants to wear, I'll have to go to about 15 different charity shops to find that. Whereas I can just quickly go on Primark or go on Amazon and I'll find it within seconds. However, it will be used for 2 or 3 months. Season changes, her idea of unicorns change, her friends' fashion changes, and it's gone. So I just tried to kind of develop a site where all of those items could be in one place, and all of those items were specifically tailored to children.
We lost your voice, I'm afraid.
Pardon?
You've gone mute.
I can hear her.
Maybe it's me.
I can hear her. It's you.
It's my old headphones, you see.
I hope it was secondhand.
Oh my God, sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, the premise behind Swapsies is more about bringing awareness to people who are shopping for children's clothing, to just say there is no such thing as a way. They are going out to these massive sites in Cantamanto in Ghana, in Peru. I don't know whether you've seen the secondhand clothing graveyards. We are actually buying and producing far more than we need, and that's the problem. And if we're able to kind of limit those productions by limiting our purchases and actually cycling good quality wear through our communities, we can reduce that production. And it is unfortunate that the big fashion brands have cottoned on to that and they're greenwashing. You go into a store, I don't really want to mention particular names, it's got lovely green hues, it's organic cotton, it's this, they do a buyback scheme. Have you ever been to a store that does a buyback scheme and seen any of these supposed upcycled items back on the shelf?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know where to start. But yeah, it all strikes me as incredibly disingenuous, especially when you see these mountains of clothes, some of which are new clothes that just they didn't sell, so it's cheaper to just discard them in another country in the desert, which is I have no words.
And the very fact that there's an entire store, TK Maxx, there's several of them which have lines and lines of clothes that other stores couldn't sell, just shows you that there's too much.
Yeah.
There's way too much out there.
I just wanted to sort of say how I kind of got into secondhand clothing, really, because I'm a huge advocate for it. And actually, in an interesting way, though, I always went to charity shops when I was a kid. We always sort of generally focused in on bric-a-brac and on toys and books and furniture. And actually, all through my uni days as well, I was buying secondhand furniture, but I didn't really particularly buy clothes. And I think the things which kind of got it into my consciousness was a few years ago, Mary Portas's program on Mary Queen of Charity Shops. That really resonated with me. I mean, I'm a big fan of Mary Portas. She's quite an incredible woman. If you don't know her, check out her podcast. Work Like a Woman. Her book, Work Like a Woman, as well, is absolutely amazing. But just, she was kind of turning round charity shops from that traditional kind of a bit stinky,
crammed, dusty, fusty, yeah,
and like turning it round. And equally so, she was the one who kind of went into like your blue chip companies and was getting people to donate one quality item. So like a dress, which, because the mentality, I think, before her program and before her really talking about this, was everyone was like, well, once it's been used, like I have a degrading system within my house. I don't know if you guys are the same, where like clothes, they kind of go down and then they're like gym wear and then they're pajamas. And then once they've got holes in, and like I can't do anything more with them. That's how I used to be, like, and then I'd give them to charity shop, which isn't really fair, is it? But she was kind of saying, like, guys, come on, let's think about this. You should be seeing it as, you know, this is a way of charitably giving in a positive way. So that was like one program which really resonated with me, and the other one was Hugh Fanny Whittleton's program on War and Waste, and just showing the mountains of clothes which were getting thrown away. And I think I just gradually got more and more into it. And honestly, I actually get so much joy from shopping secondhand.
Yeah. You find some absolute gems.
Yeah, and you get stuff which is different as well, because I think once I was working in office jobs, you know, it was very much that people would wear Next or Marks and Spencer's in office jobs. Like that's
it. Yeah.
And so you'd kind of go into Next and you'd buy like a top thinking, oh, that's really different. That's got like a tribal pattern on or something. And you turn up and 4 other people in the office had it on, and it kind of ruins it.
Yeah. You do end up feeling like a Smurf, don't you?
Yeah,
everyone just looks exactly the same, and
but
you know, there's no originality.
There's just more and more options out there, and I just think it's wonderful what Stephanie's doing, because she's kind of promoting the whole community base. Let's share our resources, you know, let's share our fancy dress costumes between the community. Let's share these things, because they have a shelf life in terms of kids' clothes, as you were saying. Like unicorn era is like from this age to this age. But, you know, it's not about denying the kids wearing unicorn clothes if that's what they want to do. That's really cool. But like self-expression is great, but not forever. And then what happens next? And I think through being this and becoming an eco-influencer as well, it's just really thinking about absolutely everything. What happens to the end of life?
Where does it go? Yeah.
And clothes are almost the worst for that in a lot of ways. And as far as I'm aware, we pretty much have 0 options in that none of the recycle bins take clothes. So the only thing you can do is actually give it to a charity shop, because they sell it on to scrap merchants. Or if you use the clothes bins at the tip as well, I believe those are shredded down as well. And those are, you know, again, used in that way.
I think
such a way.
I think that's a good thing. I think that have I frozen by the? Because my picture's not changed for ages. Am I moving?
No, you're good.
Yeah, we can see you moving.
You just need to move. It was a sign of life.
That's okay.
One thing I did see from the sort of the more commercial companies that do the recycling is that they do have this policy where they're saying, well, it does have a grading system where they will actually say if an item comes in and actually, you know what, as you say, it's that unicorn t-shirt that's been worn to death and it's been worn by lots of different people, and it's now got to a stage where actually no one's going to buy it. They will then send it off to be shredded and be recycled as something else. And I think that's very important to get that whole ethos going, is that don't take that old pair of socks and stick it in the bin, because, you know, they're recyclable as much as the plastic bottles are. And I get quite cross with that when you see people that, you know, literally will bin clothing because they think, oh, well, it's past its best, we're going to go to a charity shop, or, you know, they won't do anything with it.
How do you recycle it? Because if the recycle bins aren't you know, if you can't put them in the recycle bin, I'm asking because I'd like to know.
To be honest, clothing is almost impossible to recycle and to actually create new clothing, just because of the several different types of material that tends to go into our clothing, particularly polyester, which is essentially just a very, very thin kind of plastic. It's very, very good to shred and create other things like stuffing for pillows and for couches and so on and so forth, but it's almost impossible to create into new clothing. So I agree with Alan. I think there has to be a lot more out there in order for us to deposit clothing, because I can't remember the last time I've seen a clothing bin that says we are going to recycle this, we're going to strip it down and we're going to use it to make X. It just either looks like it's going to be donated to a developing country. They've got too much. Don't kid yourself in thinking that you're helping some kid in some developing country. It's not. All you're doing is just dumping it somewhere where you won't see it. We need more clothing recycle bins, the same as we've got our plastic and can recycle bins, we've got our food recycling bins, and we've got our paper and cardboard. Textiles is the key next one, I would say, and we're seriously lacking that.
To get actually home collections, ideally, because I think, this is the key thing, that all our lives are so busy. If you haven't got children, you've got other caring responsibilities, you've got work, you've got everything else going on. So I don't think again, we talked about this last time, Axel, it's not fair to put all the blame on the consumer. It needs to be the case that the system changes from the top down, and another one, and I'll just jump on this soapbox very briefly, but Central Bedfordshire drives me insane, because Central Bedfordshire doesn't collect glass from your door, whereas Milton Keynes does, Northampton does.
Wow, glass is the most recyclable product out there.
I was going to say, I thought glass is the first one to go.
And so obviously most people in Central Bedfordshire, and I can completely understand this because they have busy lives, will go, oh well, sod it, I can't recycle that, so that will go in the main waste. And I'm just like, well, guys, because I collect it up in my back room, but then it's usually months before I get round to taking it down the bank.
Yeah, but you're an exception. The majority won't do.
Sorry, this is not what it looks like. just let me just lead with this. I was pointing to the glass. I'm not sure you can see it. It's a
jam jar. I've got those.
I've recycled glasses because I keep breaking my drinks glasses. So now it's Nutella and jam.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've got. And they last a lot longer than normal glasses. Actually, I've dropped that about 3 or 4 times on my kitchen tiles, and it's been fine. Bit chipped. But
can I say, with regard to the recycling the clothes, one of the things that you can do, and if I'm giving a shameless plug here from one of my customers, I'm sorry, but companies such as Thrift will send you a bag and stuff all your clothes into it. What is junk, they will deal with recycling of it. And I've done that before. I filled a bag with some good and some bad, and they've come back and they said, that pair of jeans, the ones used for decorating, we're not going to try and sell those ones, but they will get put to a sensible place and they will do something sensible with them. So as much as they are commercial and they are looking to make profit from this one, they are doing the right thing by it, and they are going out there and saying, well, give it to us and let us deal with it. And
that's good, because a lot of these similar companies actually put so many rules and regulations around it, and actually then penalize people and say, we
won't take this and we won't take this,
or we might, this, that. So that's really interesting, because
that's actually something that I'm looking into doing for Swapsies. So as well as the actual online sites where you can upload anything, so there are a couple of those online sites on there where they're only taking specific brands and specific high street brands, which kind of makes sense because you don't really want to align yourself with high street brands that are just churning out products after products after products. However, if you've already bought it, there's no point in me saying, well, I'm not going to take from this brand because it's already been purchased, it's already been made. Let's just put it back in the loop, into the cycle. The other thing that we're doing is we're doing live swap events, which you're all probably aware of, just normal swap events. People turn up with all of their clothes, they collect a certain amount of tokens, and then they can use those tokens to then get more stuff. So whatever will be remaining from there will be some items that nobody will just take. And, that's kind of the next step for Swapsies, is to find out who is really taking on those clothes, where those textiles end up, because I don't really want to sign up to somebody who says, yeah, we'll take your clothes. I don't know whether anyone's ever had the misfortune of hiring out somebody who says they can clear away your rubbish, and then you go 10 miles down the road and they've just dumped it in the park somewhere. That's what I need to find, an organization that can really show me from beginning to end where these textiles are going to end up, and they're not in some other country, or they're not in our rivers or anything like that. They're actually being stripped down and being used. Stuffing for couches, for example, is a perfect way to put those items, because people hopefully keep their couches for decades, and it will get a longer use.
I guess the problem with that is you get into the whole fire regulation thing.
Yes, exactly. They need to not be putting loads of fairy princess dresses stripped down in there, because they are highly flammable materials. But hopefully
then beg the question, what happens to all the fairy princess dresses?
Exactly. I mean, we had a huge, when we had the turtle with the thing up his nose, and there was a huge drive against single-use plastic, which I'm glad is still taken off, and everybody's very wary about single-use plastic. Again, costumes are amazing for kids to be wearing, but they are single-use. That World Book Day costume that my daughter wore this last week will never be worn again. I say worn again. She borrowed her best friend's dungarees, which was quite good, and she's going to return them. I drew Harry Potter glasses on my son because I just refused to buy any costumes. I thought it was just ridiculous. But anybody who does buy costumes, they are essentially single use. How do we tackle that kind of single use culture in our clothing purchase?
I guess similar to what you're doing, but sort of like when it comes to fancy dress specifically, it's kind of clothes libraries, isn't it? Places you can rent them. And I think that's probably the way forward. I mean, what we did was we just raided our dressing up box, which we keep, and then I looked for the book to go with the costume.
Retrofit.
Right, doctor. We must have a book with the doctor in it, surely.
That works out quite well. But the renting space that you spoke about there's I'm not sure whether anyone saw on what's it called, Dragon's Den, Little Loop clothing. Not many people will go out there and promote. I wouldn't necessarily consider them competitors. I think the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and she's also against climate degradation, and she's doing this for the climate. So I'm fully support her, and her sort of business model is amazing. You sign up for a subscription, you get a set amount of clothing that you essentially are borrowing for as long as you want, and when you don't want to use them anymore, you send them back and they send you a new one. And it's just so you're not holding on to a whole load of clothes that your children have grown out of and you don't know who to hand it back to. And she has kind of partnered with specific clothing brands who supply her with those items of clothing. So you do have to have that particular type of taste for your children to get get those clothes. My son would probably refuse to wear a lot of them. There's a lot of daisies and so on and so forth. But I think that kind of renting, borrow for a little bit until they grow out of it, and then send it back and someone else can borrow for a little bit is an amazing concept. And we need to be doing that for a lot of the single-use stuff, like costumes, I think.
I completely agree.
It's about culture shift and persuading people that, without being funny, we one of the things that we do refillable milk. So we've got a milk bottle, and we take it along to the farm shop and get that refilled. And it's a bit of a pain in the backside, to be honest with you. But you make that decision and you say, we're going to do this. And I think that the same thing with the clothing. I know that, I mean, my kids are 30 years old now, so they're somewhat past the stage to be able to tell them what they're going to wear. But I do think that there has got to be an element that says, there's got to be this line where you're saying you can't just keep, filling up the wardrobe with this new clothing and new clothing and new clothing. And I was probably one of the stricter parents from that point of view, where I was very much more into the whole, no, we're not going to go and buy a new pair of jeans. What's wrong with the pair of jeans that
what do you have?
You couldn't be bothered to, I need some new jeans. No, you need to take the jeans that are stuck at the bottom of your wardrobe and we'll wash them and you can wear them again.
Yeah. It is that.
I think that's...
It's definitely that culture shift. And I think, I'm on the same vein as you. If my daughter says I need a new pair of jeans, it's either because her current pair of jeans are, ankle swingers at the moment and we need to replace them, or she just can't find them because they're in the wash. She's not getting anything new until she either donates it to someone. So I say, well, what do you want to get rid of? Because we're having a clear out before we have an add-on. Or what's too small for you.
Right.
I'm not going to. And she has a set space, and if that space is full, then she has enough clothing.
I quite agree. You've got 14 hangers in your wardrobe, and if you want something new, one item has got to go. Which one of those shirts do you not want to wear ever again?
Yeah, agreed.
I quite agree with that. And I know it sounds like it's very easy to be a parent to 30-year-olds who haven't got to make these decisions and force these decisions, but I just really do feel that you need this culture shift that says that pre-loved is not a bad thing.
100%.
This culture shift that says that you don't need 16 pairs of jeans in your wardrobe because you can't be bothered to wash them. This culture shift that says, the look after the training shoes you've got rather than just thinking, I don't care.
Yeah.
Oh my God, shoes. Yes, that's a great topic, actually, shoes. I may only have one pair of jeans, at least that I know of, but I've got about 10 pairs of shoes and boots. So, culture shift, exactly. We need to change the perception. I always stop myself from buying new stuff, like new headphones, which I think I need to fix. Talk about
you actually do need
thrifting and repairing stuff. That's a recurring thing in our show. But like with Evie, when we went shopping for World Booked It, I made a conscious kind of effort to kind of say, okay, we're not buying a costume because that's just wasteful, I think. And I've bought so many costumes that I was trying to pass on to other people, and usually it ends up in a charity shop, and it probably ends up in landfill, sadly, because they've got pieces missing or they're torn because, hey, they're kids. So I made a conscious effort to kind of talk to her and say, let's be a bit more mindful and maybe buy something that's actually clothing that you can wear. And I love this approach of what is it called? A capsule wardrobe or something?
Yeah.
Where you make a choice. And hers is really easy at the moment because it's all black.
Okay, perfect.
It's all black with an accent color. So, is this something that could maybe help us combat this incredulous amount of waste that we're producing just because it's convenient to pop to Tesco's and buy a costume for 10 quid?
That's the thing, isn't it? It's the convenience. It's the fact that you can walk in to a supermarket intending to just get some tomatoes for your salad, and you come out with a t-shirt, jeans, a hoodie, and it's just like, why is this here? Why are there so many clothes being produced here? It baffles me, and I would never call myself a fashionista, so I can't really speak for those who really go for fashion. It's their crutch. It's the thing that makes them feel good. I know people who go shopping on a weekend, and that is that's a weekend for them. I'm not going to fault that. So it's hard for me to grasp people who buy brand new, but then for me it's furniture, so I have to drag myself away from any kind of furniture stores, and the convenience of furniture stores, especially the big ones, is horrendous. So yeah, I can understand people who are addicted to shopping or who are addicted to that brand new clothing smell, just picking up a whole load of items along with their normal weekly shop. It's getting that conscious of where it started from, to start off with, the amount of water, the amount of oil, the amount of dye, the fact that we're killing rivers, we're killing seas to produce this item. Are you really going to love it and hold it and honor it for the amount of mileage that's gone in to make it? And if people think about that, like if you make a meal and you put in a whole load of effort to make that meal and people chuck it away, it's soul destroying. If people think about the effort that goes in to make it, perhaps they'll be less likely to buy it as much and less likely to throw away as much. And
it's not just that though. It's the fact that there is so much clothing out there. I'm sure it's mentioned on your website, Stephanie, that there is such a surplus of clothing. I'm sure I heard the figure a few years ago that there was
350,000 tons.
How many?
350,000 tons is thrown away of clothing.
Right, but
what?
Wow. But more significantly than that one, there's enough clothing in circulation now to clothe the next 8 generations.
Yes.
Wow.
So even if you go back to what we're talking about, which is this pre-loved idea, if we go back to this whole idea of saying, rather than going out and buying that brand new T-shirt, go onto one of these sites, go onto your site and say, well, I need a new T-shirt, or I want a new T-shirt even. Well, don't buy a new T-shirt. I want a T-shirt that's new to me.
It's 50% recycled. Come on, Alan.
Don't buy a new. There is, and unfortunately, I'm old enough now to see fashion. I think it's gone around 3 times now. I remember when I was younger, I was about 15, and I thought I was wearing this brand new A-line skirt, and then my mum just rolled her eyes at me. Oh, this is back. And like, hang on a minute, what do you mean this is brand new? And now I'm seeing all the kids are wearing what I was wearing in the 80s, all the kids are wearing what I was wearing in the 90s. So all of these items, or these fashionable brand new things, are just going around in the 10-year loop. So you will find those baggy jeans that are back in fashion, or those I don't even know what's in fashion at the moment. I have no idea what these 20-year-olds are wearing, but it's all there. It's in the ether. And this is what my site is trying to do, is just bring it all into one place so you can find something new to you to buy.
What if you don't have any sense of fashion and you are literally just wearing that one thing? Like, I mean, I love people like Steve Jobs because they have this one pair of jeans as well, and they have one Rolo neck or whatever it's called, a jumper, and there is some peacefulness. I think there is some, the anti-consumerism, and I think we as parents have a lot to answer for setting an example for our children. And I think I'm with you, Stephanie. I don't blame anybody for their shopping habit or for their kind of little obsessions. I think we all have them, and that's fine as long as we are aware that perhaps some of our obsessions, the way we satisfy them, might have a really negative impact on, I don't know, 10-year-olds sitting in a factory in somewhere in South Asia knitting trainers or something. I don't know how you produce trainers, but I've seen stuff online. So what can we do as parents to kind of influence our children or set a good example? Jill, you've got two.
I'm very much of the Trini and Susanna generation, and I absolutely love Trini and Susanna because their whole messaging was around dress right for your body shape, rather than following trends. And it was about like really understanding what your body shape was and knowing what necklines. And I think maybe this is partly more relevant to women who have so many options.
Mine has changed in the last 5 years. I'm not afraid to say.
But it's just like, the thing is, my mindset, because I grew up with that, is always in that. And when people come to me and they say, well, how do I even begin with secondhand fashion and stuff like that? Because, I mean, again, I think, maybe this is a sweeping statement, but that for me to find a perfect fitting pair of jeans was an ordeal. But like now when my jeans literally get to the point when they have holes in and there's, you know, I need to replace them, then I have found that like Gap jeans fit me and this specific one. And so what I will do is I would literally take that label, because I don't know if anyone else wears Gap jeans, but they have so many different like waist size this and like all these different codes. So I literally go to eBay and I type in that whole thing. And then I usually get pretty much, maybe not the length right, but I can take up the length. And that's it. And that's what I do. So that's why I say to people when they're like, oh, but how would I have something that fits me? Or how would I, you know, it's completely fine to go to all these different secondhand websites, which there are now with excellent search engines on them.
And great photos.
You type in like the same thing, or go to the brands which you already know fit you well. And this is how you do it, people. Like, don't be shy. Don't be afraid of like thinking, oh, well, I'll waste my money because I'll buy all these tops and then none of them will fit me. Like, be like intelligent about it. Think about what works already and buy, you know, and equally so get rid of one to get another, you know.
But also get in the whole loop of if you buy something, and I have no embarrassment about this, but if I buy a pair of jeans from Messina Hembry or something like that, and you bought them secondhand, and I don't like them, I just stick them back onto eBay again. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that one, and it doesn't really cost you anything, because you buy them in, I don't know, £15 for a pair of jeans, you stick them on eBay, you get, I don't know, £14 back for them when you sell them again. It doesn't really matter. That pound doesn't really make a difference. If you're buying them for £65 from a Levi's store and then you sell them again for £15, that's more of a problem. But the point is, get into this culture change, get into this cycle of accepting the fact that you've got to put a bit more work into it. And I don't mind. So, you know, once you get into the habit of listing something on eBay, it's not that complicated.
Once it becomes a habit,
what if you're lazy, like me? What if you're lazy, Alan?
Then use all these companies like Thrift, like he says, who do it all for you. You literally get a bag through the post, you fill it up, and they pay for the postage back.
You're going to have to share some websites for me, because I'm in desperate need of emptying out some drawers, not just of my own stuff, but for the kids as well. And I need to get some new stuff, like especially the kids I know, they had a little bit of a growth spurt, so they need new stuff. I think I probably deserve more than just a t-shirt as well.
For the kids stuff.
I was just saying, I think I deserve more than just a new t-shirt as well. So I'm looking to replace the stuff that doesn't fit me anymore with new stuff. So if you can share websites or put them in the chat, or let me know after, and I'll put it in the description when I put this out on YouTube. I'm really struggling because I'm looking for secondhand clothes on the search engines on Google and DuckDuckGo and so forth, and I don't know what's a good place. Where do you go? You know, I've got my charity shops, but they usually don't have anything for me.
Do you have a particular taste?
Sorry, Stephanie first.
Do you have a particular taste in clothing, or just plain? I think eBay and vintage would be right up your street. And one thing that's really good for eBay, I find, is the bulk. So you can I type in girls 7-year-old bulk t-shirts, and I will get 9 or 10 t-shirts for about £10. You know, two or three of them she won't like. I'll add it to my bulk store to put back onto eBay or to put onto Swapsies. Or Vinted. Vinted's got a really, really good search engine, and there you go. Alan's added Thrift, which I was going to add on there. They're pretty good as well. I think those are the three main big ones, and they're big enough that there's just so many. It's about 4,000, 5,000 items if you just type in, you know, yellow t-shirt.
It's too much for my autistic brain, I have to say. I need a personal shopper almost. I need to go to somewhere where they've got I don't know.
I do
I don't
offer
go
it
shopping
as
much, but
part of my suite of VA skills as being so I am happy.
One of the things that I've also found really good is for the occasion wear. You know, especially I think for women, we struggle a lot. Guys are really lucky. You go to a wedding and you just wear the same suit. Nobody notices. You might change your tie, and your shoes. But women, it's like, oh my God, I wore that dress to that wedding 10 years ago. I've got to wear another one. There's a website called Renoon, RENOON, and people have bought outrageously expensive dresses that they've now realized that they can't wear again, or they can't wear as often as to justify the cost, and they just rent it out to other people. So you can rent someone else's dress, and the good thing about that is, like Jill said, you shop for your shape. They will take a photo of themselves in it. You have an idea of what you kind of look like, and you're like, okay, well, if it looks good on her, it looks good on me, and you can just borrow it for the week, wear it to the wedding, and send it back, and then you don't have millions and millions of fancy dresses in your wardrobe, and no more weddings to go to.
The thing about it is
interesting. The whole subject of weddings is always an interesting one as well, because I do always say that it's funny how it's such common culture that the men rent their suits in the UK as standard, but women all have to buy their dresses,
buy their wedding dress. Yeah.
And we all, like any of us who have been married, will have a wedding dress sitting in our loft,
sitting in the loft gathering dust.
And if I had my time again, and if I knew what I knew now, then I would most likely rent my wedding dress, because I justified spending over £1,000 on this thing on the basis that I would be able to resell it and do the bathroom. I never was able to resell it. On the plus side, I was absolutely insistent that I bought a European-made wedding dress, and I did do that. So I did do the ethical thing there, and it was made in Belgium. So
local.
Yes. So
exactly. Is it a cultural expectation then that we might need to change, where
totally.
we have, like you said, the expectation that women buy something new and specific for the purpose, and they dare not be seen with the same pair of trousers or whatever.
It's ridiculous, really. But
where does this come from?
Workarounds for it, and I think the rental of occasional wear for women is like a missed opportunity in a lot of cases.
I think it's huge. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
So there's
and as the bride, 100%.
Weddings and funerals. I mean, funerals are easy.
Yeah.
I guess
it's just black. Yeah.
But weddings are a different one. I mean, I've only been to a few in my life, including my own, and that was quite a low-key affair, because we didn't want, to waste an enormous amount of money for effectively just a really stressful day. We wanted to have the opposite. We wanted to have a day for us. So, but we did buy a dress, and that dress was worn a couple of times for special occasions. I think Lydia might still have it, in fact. But, I can't speak to those choices, but I think us setting an example to our children and to other people around us, our friends, and and wider family, and saying, look, reuse stuff, but don't buy it new. Why? And challenging people. When you're in a Facebook group or WhatsApp group or whatever, as a parent, and people talk about how to dress up for book club, not book club, for World Book Day, or for Halloween or something. And maybe just speak up. Like we're talking about speaking up against racism. I'm an ambassador for the White Ribbon Campaign, which is about speaking out against abuse towards women, and setting, challenging people wherever you see that, whether they might be catcalling or whatever. Sorry, slight tangent. But maybe we should employ some of these methods to kind of just
I definitely agree with
what are you doing?
With the speaking up. I think before I started the website, I did a survey of mums and so on and so forth, to just understand where the gap was, what people were missing, the age groups that people tend to want to shop pre-loved. Nobody not that many people were interested. I think it was less than 5% were interested in anything under 2 because it was a bit icky. You know, you've got under 2-year-olds, there's nappies, there's all sorts of things. And then anything above 10, everybody was a bit like, well, it's kind of a bit more out of my hands. They're starting to choose their own clothes. So the 2 to 10 range was the optimum range. But another thing that really surprised me was every single person who I asked whether they shopped secondhand immediately caveated it with, I can afford new, but and there is just this, I don't know whether it's the UK and this classism, there's just this element, there's still a stigma of, if I shop secondhand, it means I'm poor. And that is not the case at all. There's nothing wrong with being poor, but there's also just this, it's this stigma that's preventing people who would otherwise consider it the most sensible thing to do. There's nothing wrong with this, and it's cheaper than it was in the shop, but they don't want to appear as if there's some sort of charity case. I bought a pair of shoes I used to live in Japan about 10 years ago. I bought a pair of shoes. I love them. They're rain shoes. I don't know whether it's just Japanese engineering. They still do not have a crack in them. They still work absolutely fine. And my mum saw a photo of me in them and she said, are you still wearing those shoes? I said, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with them. She says, nobody's going to think you've got a good job if they keep seeing you in those shoes. And it's like that mentality needs to go. You know, it's
exactly. It's a really bad mental attitude, I think, to have. And I think it comes from a previous generation where I don't really know, I'm not an economist, but we went through this period of, wow, supermarkets, instant gratification of this, that, and, you know, our kids are growing up with internet and everything, and it's like, oh, I'll just get it. I mean, I'm guilty of that myself. I see something that I need or want, sometimes more for want than a need, to be fair, and I just satisfy that by buying it rather than looking for it on the flea markets or secondhand shops. So I think social media or the media has a lot to answer for, and I think we need to do more to just point it out to people and say, whoa, 1 second. And I think this is just an idea, you know, from a psychological point of view, to change that behavior. Maybe we just need to stop ourselves at the first point when we are at Tesco's or wherever and say, oh, I'm just going to buy this just in general, and say, whoa, hang on a second, sleep on it. If you still feel the same way tomorrow, then buy it, or maybe consider buying it secondhand. Consider going to your local shop.
This is the very definition of conscious consumerism and mindful consumerism, which is what I always promote as being like such a big part of the whole eco-influencer thing. It's just actually taking a mindful minute, and a lot of this stuff is stuff that our grandparents would have done as standard. I mean, I try and test myself. I mean, it's a small thing, but like if I want to go onto Amazon and buy the thing, then I'll put it in my basket rather than pressing checkout now.
Save for later.
And I'll come back to it in a week's time, and I'm like, do I still need that thing?
Yeah.
Which is
nobody needs emergency clothing. I cannot imagine what situation you would be in to need that T-shirt now.
Yeah.
What about?
I think there's an awful lot of the, maybe it's the generation well below us, but the lack of understanding of the difference between want and need. You know, I hear my godson tell his dad what he needs, and it's £300 fleeces and that kind of stuff, and I'm like, you know, that's a want. That's a, and do you know how much work is involved in earning that much money? And you know, I know what this kid is like. In 6 weeks after he's got it, it's going to be at the bottom of the wardrobe because actually, and that really gets me. And that's what I'm saying with, you know, things like the pre-loved. You know, get that stuff out. Get the kids to say, you know, if the kids had a budget, they used to say to them every year, you can have this much money towards clothing, and you've got 14 hangers, and if you want to buy a new pair of jeans, well, get a shot of one of those pairs of jeans in there and put that money towards another pair of jeans.
Exactly.
And I think if you had that attitude, I think that, you know, that would improve things. But the in my mind, what I see is just too much instant gratification.
Instantaneous, yeah.
You know, I'm going out tonight. I want a new shirt to wear.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could just iron one of the ones in my wardrobe if all else fails. And you know, I've not bought new clothes in a long time now.
No,
You said you bought a pair of jeans the other week. Oh, hang on, that was a second-hand pair.
That's a second-hand pair from one of my customers, Messina Hembury. And
Brilliant.
you know, as I say, I've not bought new jeans. I can't believe I've bought a new pair of jeans. I really can't. And I think that the only thing I do buy new, I'll be honest with you, when I buy running shoes, I buy those new.
Yeah, you need to.
But even then, when I get those, but I always get those from one of these clearance stores where they've got sort of one that's 2 years old, so it's not as fashionable as it was last year. So even then, you know, the stuff like that, you know, there's equivalents of TK Maxx for almost everything. And I do think, you know, this instant gratification consumerism is a culture shift that we need to make, and we've got to educate the kids that, you know, I want. Well, you know, when you need, and when need is a genuine need, it's different.
I think the only situation I can think of where you would need is due to the weather. And if you like, if it was suddenly snow and you had no snow wear at all, for example, that's when it's just like suddenly you need snow wear. But that's the kind of thing where, you know, in the ideal world, and I guess it is more difficult with I guess it's, in a way, it's another example of the World Book Day example, actually, in that, well, you can rent that though, you know, and I think, I can't remember if it was Little Luke or if it was somewhere else. There was, I'm pretty sure it might have been Little Luke actually, who do rent snowwear.
Oh no, that was Wear Dot. Wear Dot.
Yeah.
You can rent snowwear from there.
And stuff like that is actually thinking the seasonal stuff. I don't need to keep it, especially with the whole challenge around children growing constantly.
So fast,
You know, when it's adults, you can have one snow jacket which lasts you 20 years in the cupboard. But with children, it is a challenge. I mean, one thing which I found interesting as well is being a twin mum, is that I think because people kind of saw me as being in need, because obviously the expense of having two at once, they'll just give me clothes. They have from the beginning.
Amazing.
You know? I just embrace that. I love that. And also I'm then part of the twin community. So like literally I have a twin mum in Milton Keynes who's got little boys who are like 6 and 7. So she'll call me up every so often and be like, got another bag, Jill. And I'm like, what's it? And then I pass on my one, you know, and we're just part of a community. So that's what happens. And that's
proper circular fashion.
Things. You know, that's what we need to do. We need to get away from just chucking stuff out, you know.
I don't think it's even the chucking stuff out. I think it's the hoarding stuff that's the biggest problem. I think it's the lofts full of clothes and the wardrobes, you know. And one of the things I would always advocate is that if you go through your wardrobe and apply the Maria Kondo, you know, do I really like this? Or,
she's brilliant.
Yes, totally agree.
Do I love this?
If you go through your wardrobe and you empty out lots of stuff and you end up with just, you know, a couple of pairs of jeans or whatever it might be, and you limit it. So when you open your wardrobe, you can see what's in there. When you open your drawers, you can see what's in there. You know, the stuff doesn't get hidden at the bottom of wardrobes and never get worn. You don't have jumpers that are like, oh, bloody hell, I forgot about that.
I know. So, and you end up finding clothes, I don't know about you, but if I don't get my washing cycle right, I end up putting it in the wash, hanging it out to dry, folding it, putting it on a chair, and then I end up wearing the same things anyway. And sometimes my wardrobe doesn't even get open. Because there's just a certain set of clothes that are just doing the loop. They're getting washed, getting dried, getting worn. It's like, I might have too many clothes. Like, until I did the Marie Kondo, that was my situation. I thought, I don't need all of these clothes, especially with lockdown, you know, just sitting around in leggings and a jumper. was unnecessary.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I have exactly the same, especially with the kids. And one of the things I'm also trying to encourage the kids is to think about whether it's dirty and it needs a wash. So there's this whole thing, oh, I've worn it once, let's just chuck it in the wash. It's like there is nothing on there. You don't need new clothes and you don't need to wash them unless they are dirty.
Yeah.
Have you succeeded in not spilling your food down your top today? Then it goes on the chair for tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've got a particular child who shall remain nameless, who has some issues with that, especially with school uniforms. But no, it's exactly that. We just need to kind of encourage, especially our children, to think about all of those things. So it all comes back to this mindfulness that you, as you said, Jill, and that we touch on pretty much in every episode of our little show here. And it's just hammering that home and saying there's so much you can do, so many little things that cost you nothing, absolutely nothing. I love the swapping thing that you just described, where it's basically, you found somebody, I assume online, and you're in touch. I mean, this is such a great enabler, this internet thing, for democrat. I'm using the wrong words here, but it's back in the days. Our my parents. I can only talk from my side, but we had friends and we had people in the streets that we knew, and they had children. You kind of have this phone list of people that you can call and maybe meet down the shops. But now it's so much easier to just say, hey, do you have any clothes spare? Or I don't know what you would say to. I've never done it because I don't have any friends. I don't think that I can swap clothes with. But I did try it when the kids were smaller, and we have so much stuff. And I remember that friends of mine also were very happy to dump, bags of children's clothes with us because they had nobody in their immediate surroundings that they could give it to. And it was like, oh, gee, thanks for these 2 massive bags of baby clothes that I'm probably not going to wear. What do you do with it? Are there marketplaces that take them? You mentioned, the through your research, Stephanie, that there are age groups that people don't touch. So what happens to all of that stuff? Because you go through it so quickly, if I remember.
That's the problem, and I think Alan does touch on the point that a lot of people aren't throwing away clothes. I think that is one thing that people do kind of are reluctant to do, but a lot of people are hoarding. And as soon as I put out the invite to say we're doing a live swap event, I was inundated with, I've got so many clothes. Can I bring them to this event? But people just are too busy or are too used to the convenience of buying new, but they don't want to then take photos and upload individual items and then wait for those individual items to go. So if there's a bulk way of getting rid, everybody will sign up to that. So yeah, I'm all for a lot more kind of swap events to gather those things in bulk, and then I'll upload them onto Swapsies when the event's over, just so that they are somewhere.
Give us, let's, I'm just looking at the time, we're coming up to the hour. So do we want to do a final round? And you've got, Jill.
I just wanted to bring up one thing which we haven't talked about yet, but something which I've talked to Stephanie about is the whole school uniform piece. And it is really interesting. I mean, I'm just in the first year of the boys being in school uniform, but I was quite shocked, having come from a place where, my experience is that it was far, completely had been normalized for general clothing. But then you went into school uniform and suddenly there wasn't a source for that. And I had to really hunt out, and I messaged on all the village Facebook page and such. And because our school allows you to wear logo or non-logo, I was searching out bottle green tops from Surrey on Facebook and stuff like that. But I think again, it's just taking that mindful minute and thinking, how can I buy this in a more ethical way? There were kids who had gone to our school and then decided it wasn't for them and moved to the school in the next town. And I had people contacting me from that and like saying, well, they wore this top for a term. But in terms of the school, I was actually like a little bit disappointed by their like way of dealing with it, because all they do is they have a rail outside for families in need, which, you know, obviously that's part of the picture as well, and there are families in need.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I just felt like for that to be the only option, it kind of stigmatized it. And I just felt like if they actually did a 50p an item sale or something like that at the school fete, you know, COVID aside for a second, then they would make money for the school, you know, and people would genuinely get a whole bunch of clothes out of it. And, you know, I have managed to pretty much source most of what the kids wear secondhand, with the exception of white polo shirts. But don't get me started on why on earth someone has decided somewhere along the frigging line that white is a good colour for a school
For children.
What?
The worst.
Crazy.
You need like a Scottish kind of pattern.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, tie-dye.
That's
That'd be
it.
perfect.
And one more point on this,
Go for
actually,
it.
with the whole like baby clothes thing, is what I did when I got secondhand baby clothes is I dyed them. Machine dyed them myself. And I think that's something which a lot of people don't think to do. But again, it's an old school thing, is dye-on dyes in the machine, and just dyed everything navy blue, and it just hides a world of sins. Crack on, baby rose, done. That's what I did. So
fantastic.
yeah.
Alan,
what do you do? Do you use dyes? What's your last tips for tonight?
I'm all for the dyeing. Yeah. I've seen this at some of the commercial places where they'll get clothing in that's got stains on it, and that rather than just putting it straight for recycling, they'll tie-dye it, they'll dye it, they'll do stuff with it. And you know, a pair of jeans with a stain on, nothing wrong with them. I mean, most of my jeans, after wearing them a couple of times, have got a stain on them anyway. So it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean they go straight to the bloody recycling and goes to the bin. Just, you know, make do and make up, and just be more tolerant.
Make do and mend. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know how to fix your own clothes when they get broken, like a button falling off and stuff?
I don't really, but my partner does. My partner's very good at that. So I can repair cars and do DIY, and she can repair clothing. So we do work on this together.
That's good balance.
It's also going back to old school things, like if you're not that great with the sewing machine, as I'm not, you know, I'll take up a pair of trousers-ish. But it's going to your dry cleaners, and most of your dry cleaners offer a service for about, you know, £5-10. And if you're going to, I'd rather buy a pair of trousers in TK Maxx, which are far too long for me, and then go and get them altered professionally at the local dry cleaners, and I've still saved the cost. You know, I've done that before, and it's beautifully done. It's like really professionally done. So
yes, I agree.
It's just doing these things.
Fantastic. Jill, do you have anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
As ever, you can find me on all platforms at jamjarjill, or on jamjarjill.com. So, and I also am a virtual assistant, and I have a wellbeing podcast as well, which I'm producing once a month, but all the details are on my website. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jill. Stephanie.
So you can find me at Swapsies on Instagram and Facebook. It's not just about the website and selling clothes. It does offer all tips to do with clothing, with how you wash them, how you wear them, how you save them. So just give us a follow. Always welcome, but always looking for other people who do sewing type repair things. That's my kind of go-to, is repair first, before you replace and swap.
Fantastic.
So yeah, find me on @swapsies.
Fantastic. Love the name. And Stephanie, thank you so much for being on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Really good talking with you. Alan, sorry, my voice is leaving me now.
All I would say is if any of you guys need help making your images look better on your site, give me a call. This is not commercial. This is just trying to help you promote what you're doing, do your bit better. So please, alanlevyphotography.co.uk. Please give me a yell, give me a shout, anything you can do to help. You know where I am.
Fantastic. Alan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just swap this around. There we go. And now I can do a professional wrap up, I hope. I'm getting better at this stuff. So coming up next week, we've got Gavin Anderson again and a special guest that shall not be revealed yet. On the 21st of March, that's not next week, but it's the week after that, we have Jane and Claire from Climate Action West Northants, or CORN for short, which is a fantastic group. They do a climate cafe. They've done a virtual climate cafe. They also do in-person meetups. They do a lot up in Northamptonshire, and they're going to come on the show and talk about what they're doing. And there's so many more shows that are lining up. I'm going to get better, I promise, in giving you all ahead. So I'm going to put it all on the website soon. So check out climateactionlife.show. That gets you straight to my blog. You can find previous episodes there. I'll always upload them by Wednesdays. They'll be on YouTube and on my blog. Plus, there's an audio-only version, aka the podcast version, which is just the only audio-only way. Oh my God, I need to drink more stuff now. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining in. Keep the questions coming during the week. Have them coming in during the show, please. And like, share, subscribe. I'll see you all again soon. Stay safe. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Good to meet you all.